Hey, welcome to the Ego Eraser. My name is Jordan from Without Bounds, and if you bought these two sweet courses, awesome. If you've just bought this one, great. Well, welcome to the Ego Eraser, my friend. So happy to have you here. Happy that you've decided to take this step to get a hold of this thing, this three-letter word that just has such a grip on so many people's lives. And you might have followed different ads, you might have followed different things to get here, maybe different videos talking about this constant nagging story in your head, this constant barrage of thoughts that you're dealing with, or maybe you know other people who are really suffering, whether they're depressed, anxious, neurotic, insane, whatever, paranoid, whatever the whole gamut is. You know what this is like. You know what it's like to experience that great emotional and mental distress that is the ego. Now, this is not to be confused with, what Freud, the psychologist Freud described as the id, the ego, and the superego. The id being your animal instincts and the drives for pleasure and pain versus the superego, which is like your rational brain watching over everything, and your ego, which kind of sits in the middle. No, the ego that we're talking about in question here is this story in your mind that's constantly making snide remarks, making cynical comments, making doubtful and, really terrible comments about people. It's this thing that's getting you to shrink your own light, getting you to shrink back from who you are. It's taking the truth and value of your life and it is reducing it, it is shrinking it, and it is convincing you to be less than you are each day, to show up and to continuously listen and believe whatever the hell it's talking to you. But what Jim always likes to say here Without Bounds is that you gotta kill the monster, you gotta cage the beast while it's small. So hopefully you've arrived here at a point in your life where this isn't out of control. But let's face it, you are here because more than likely it is a little bit harder for you to deal with. And you want some strategies. You want to know, Jordan, please tell me true. Can I erase this thing for sure? Can I get rid of this thing? What do I have to do? What is the ego? So I'm sure that you've dealt with this like in my life. I'll show up to the gym and you look around, you smell, and it's like, who the hell are all these smelly people? And then the judge starts kicking in. It's like, well, these smelly people might, they probably don't bathe and they're probably really stupid and they treat their families like shit. And it's like, where did all that come from? Where did all these chains of thoughts come from? Like, what does that have to do with anything? And then these other thoughts start coming in like, oh, wow, that guy's way more ripped and jacked than me. How long is it going to take for me to get like that? I shouldn't even bother. You get this whole raging story going on, and it's like, come on already. I'm tired of dealing with this thing. I know you are. I know because you're here. So I want to help you. I want to help you because in my own life, I've dealt with this monster inside of me. I've dealt with this monster that was constantly blaming others, telling, the world, you're the reason that my life is the way this is. And that I don't have to step up. I don't have to become a better person, but we're going to say F that today. We're going to say F that. We're going to move forward and start to get at what is this thing. So what is it? The first thing that the ego is it's the judge, the jury, and executioner. It is this thing, this part of your mind. Again, whether that person smells, that person's ugly, that person's really hot, whatever comments and crazy judgments and labels your mind comes up with, that is your ego. Your ego is this thing that's constantly putting things in boxes, slapping little stickers and labels. I had a sticker earlier with my name on it before. It's constantly trying to just judge and execute. It's trying to just keep people away, trying to pull certain people toward you. It's like constantly playing a drama in your life. It is the dramatic storyteller. It is the little asshole inside us all. Let's face it. And the next thing that the ego is the voice of separation. So a lot of times, here at Without Bounds, we train our clients in spiritual and personal development. And what you'll find in the spiritual community, what you'll find in any type of
work where you're doing the deep work of the soul, let's say. You know, I want to also tie this into our mission. Our mission here at Without Bounds is to heal, uplift, and empower. We call it HUE for short. That's why we're always saying, let's add color to your life. But, you know, doing the soul work, doing the deep digging of the soul and realizing, you know, what our mission here is, you know, that first step of healing. That first step of healing is really the deep work of the soul. It's where you go into yourself. It's where you go within and you figure out what the hell is going on. Getting a hold of and listening to this judge, jury, and executioner, and getting a hold by listening to this voice of separation, not actually abiding it, not actually doing what it tells you to do, but realizing that this voice is there because the ego, and it shows up in so many different ways, and I'll explain that in a moment, but the ego is trying to separate you from the whole. And part of the healing process is what we here at Without Bounds truly abide by, and we value as a first principle. And that is that all is one. All is one. And this isn't necessarily something that you can just say and just believe it. It's something that you have to practice, something that you must take time each day to get a little bit of experience with. And we'll show you that later on in this course. But what's important right now is for you to take a moment and to just, you know, close your eyes, take a deep breath and realize that nothing inside of you is self-contained, meaning no thought, no word, no action is self-contained. Meaning there's this thing inside of you, this ego, that's trying to put a box around you, trying to make you think that these arms and legs and skin is what really separates you from others. When in reality, your heart and brain are sending out electromagnetic waves. It's why you walk into a room and change the energy. It's why you are an energetic being, and you are a force sent out, and you are a force that comes in as well. So there is no separation between anything. And that is a bombshell to sort of unveil in a course like this. But in reality, the healing process starts by realizing all is one. And by realizing that the ego is seeking the opposite of healing. It's seeking wounds, it's seeking damage, it's seeking to hurt you. And it does that by being the saboteur and the victim. At the same time, it's the thing that tells you, oh, don't bother. Oh, it's like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to study. I don't need to do hard work. I don't need to work harder than others. I don't need to show up. I don't need to be better than I am yesterday. No. The ego is constantly trying to get you to shrink, to be smaller than you are. And you are much bigger than this thing is convincing you to be. Now, maybe you're here and you're like, Jordan, I am successful. I'm a successful entrepreneur. I'm a successful speaker, coach, actor, service-based industry worker, whatever it is that you are. I want you to get better than you are right now. If you're a business owner, I want your business growth to grow by 10% because of this. If you're a speaker, I want you to speak on twice as many stages because of this. If you are a creative type, I want that voice in your mind, that perfectionist, that thing that tells you this isn't good enough or you have to keep working on something over past its worth. I want to help you stop that and stop sabotaging yourself. But at the same time, I also want to develop in you the thing that notices when you're blaming others. Because one of the biggest things, Dean Graziosi, if you're familiar with him in the real estate space, personal development space, he loves to talk about how when he realized, during the economic crash and downturn, it was like all the hell was breaking loose. And he realized it's on me to fix this. And just like me in my own life, I've had terrible moments, my friend. So much so, maybe you know my story. If you don't know my story by now, I ended up in jail, where I was sitting there in an orange jumpsuit, looking at my life, wondering how the hell did I get here? Realized that I wasn't asking, why me? Why did this happen to me? No, I got over that crappy question because I was ready to make a change, ready to look at my life. No, I'm no Buddha. I'm no saint. I'm no angel, my friend. Although my name Jordan does mean one who descends. So maybe I am like an angel coming down to help you. But it's time, and you'll hear me say it's time a lot because the time is now, and I do this all the time because it is now, baby, and it's now time for you to stop letting that victimhood mentality control your life. Maybe you know other people dealing with this. You know people who the ego is constantly controlling, making them shrink back from who they are, convincing them to sabotage themselves, to smoke that other cigarette, to eat that other Cheeto. I know, sorry, Chester, Cheeto, Orange Man. What is he? Is he a leopard, a cheetah, or a tiger? I don't even know what he is anymore. But the truth about your ego is that, and this is something that I do promise you, because this is called the ego eraser. And I don't call it this lightly. I call it this because this is the pinnacle of the practice. The practice where if you keep doing the things that we teach you at the end of this and through the next 3 lessons, you will have a set of strategies, a formula, a practice and techniques that will help you cage the beast, box it, and start to live with and manage the ego. Now, we know from, or maybe you don't know, but let me tell you anyway. Here at Without Bounds, we've studied the arts, we've studied religion, we've studied philosophy, and what we've come to understand is that the people in the past have very similar relationships to the mind today, but things are so different today. So it's helpful to have the perspective of the past. Now, there's a wonderful philosopher who I'm going to bring up now. His name was Socrates. I think he was Plato's teacher, right? I think he was Plato's teacher, or it was the other way around. I got to brush up on my Greek history here. But what Socrates taught us was that he would listen to the voices inside his mind. And the voices inside his mind he called the daemon. Not to be confused with the demon, the monster, that is the ego. He had this other relationship with the voices inside his mind. He trusted the voices inside his mind because the voice inside his mind would get him to do things, get him to become something better and bigger. And he trusted this voice so much to his death. Like, we're talking, he was on trial and he could have easily gotten exiled and had his life preserved, but he came to a point where the voice inside his mind said, there's really no need to fight, there's no need to resist this, you've lived a life, and that's it, it's okay. We're gonna die and we're going to send a message, a shockwave through history. And today we look back on that moment and we realize this was a bold MFer, my friend, and he was a hero to many people. And he has been able to teach us the strength of the power of the mind when it is used to stop separating you from what you can be, to stop sabotaging you from what you can be. He died a noble death, but we're not trying to die here from the voices in our head. We're trying to use the voices in our head to uplift, to heal, and to empower. So, what we also have learned from, say, the Buddhists, perhaps, they're the best examples who I can really invoke here. And what they taught us is that the mind has a nature, and that inside of you, you can learn to observe this nature. And we're going to be going through in the first module, here we go, how to watch your ego. And I'll be conveying to you some Buddhist techniques, but also just practices that on the ground level you can employ right now to start watching your ego, watching these silly, stupid, crazy, sabotaging thoughts, these victim thoughts, these blame thoughts, these cynical, doubtful, mean, angry, frustrated, angsty thoughts, and learn how to move towards your connection with all that is. Move towards your connection with something higher and bigger than yourself. This is what we work with our clients each day to do. So thank you for being here, baby. After that, in Module 2, we're going to teach you about active thoughts, how to use your mind to push back against these things, to have a cognitive framework. A what? A cognitive framework to push back against these things. Start using your mind as the daemon. We're going to unleash the daemon to fight the demon, baby. And in the last module, we're going to learn about my favorite thing, my favorite piece of this whole journey, the mystical experience. We're going to go through a pretty comprehensive lesson on how I've invoked the mystical experience in my life and how other people are using it each and every day overcome their ego, to cage the beast, and to erase it once and for all. So thank you so much for being here, my friend. It means so freaking much that you can be here, ready to do something that most people aren't doing. They live with this. They are it. They let it control them. But you have made a powerful decision. Oh, yes, a powerful decision to no longer be controlled by the beast, but to take control, to start living and managing it. So I'm super stoked to get us started. So I'll see you in the first lesson when we learn how to watch your ego. I'll see you there, my friend, and be well until then.